Today, we finish our 3-round 2026 NFL mock draft with trades. Just like the NFL draft, I split it into 2 days. Day 1 being round 1, day 2 today being rounds 2 and 3. We're going to be doing a quick little recap of all the trades that went down. But if you guys want to actually understand the full experience, go over and check out the actual mock draft. And there are players who I am considered as returning in this because we're continuing it tomorrow for a 2027 NFL mock draft. Super excited for that. You guys should be as well. It's always nice to be able to post a 2027, the first one of the year, on the Lord's Day. But let's get right into this. Again, if you guys are new, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Just go watch the first video and enjoy it. Blow my face with my board. These guys are an all 22. They're the players I love in the order I love them. It is not predictive. So keep that in mind. If you think that steals can't happen after the first round, then that's on you. But I have conviction that certain players are probably valued in disproportionately. And, I'm going to show my love. Full transparency. If I end up losing out and I end up missing, I end up understanding why. If I end up winning, I understand why. But if I end up bullshitting, well, that's a much longer and much harder journey to do. But at number 1, we have the Tennessee Titans trading back with the Jets and end up acquiring multiple first-round picks in order to get Ty Simpson. Of course, via doing that, they end up trading down and getting Ruben Bain. I'm only going to talk about the trades because you guys can use your eyes. If you guys are listening to the audio version, then I'll be mentioning the players selected. But on top of that, I do highly recommend just enjoying the first video while it ended up happening live. But we also ended up having Washington and Arizona do a small trade. Ended up seeing the Cardinals basically jump the Rams. And honestly, I'm pretty happy that they ended up doing that. But Spencer Fano was the selection for the Cardinals, solved that right tackle problem. And then we ended up seeing not Ricardo Hallman, because I ended up talking to Trev. He said he needs to get these guys into the mock draft simulator, but it was not Ricardo Hallman. It is my number 8 player on my board, Brandon Cisse, cornerback out of South Carolina. We'll see how many people end up actually listening to the video for that, but we'll end up continuing talking about that as the video goes on. Then we have the Cowboys do a short-range trade, both in distance in the draft as well as distance in reality with Houston. Houston moves up to select Peter Woods. I do know that I've had some people who are even like Panthers fans talk about maybe making that move. But especially because I usually run into the issue with the Texans of like feeling like I don't really have the proper value for them in the later rounds. I feel like it was a good opportunity to recomp some picks. But Cowboys end up trading back and getting Keldrick Falk as a part of this deal. Again, Marshawn Nealon, friend of the show, friend of mine, ended up passing away. And so there is a vacancy for somebody who has a similar skill set. And I think Keldrick Falk could end up basically being the remediation for that. But we ended up having the Titans trade up with San Francisco and recomp their picks once again to jump all these teams to go after their top receiver here. And you could go with any of these receivers except KC. KC wouldn't make sense with Chim DK. But Mekhi Lemon, I don't blame you if you want to go with him. Denzel Boston, wouldn't blame you. But I ended up going after Chris Bell, who I have right there as my wide receiver. Is he now 4? Yeah, he's now 4 because Mekhi Lemon has always been like perched just a little ahead. And then Carnell Tate as well has been just ascending in a crazy rate. So Jordan Tyson's been my 1 the whole time. But regardless, Chris Bell's a fantastic receiver. Again, if you want to have any of these other receivers in any other order, I still think this would have been the range based on when Buffalo was sitting there at 21. It would have been pretty much 4 wide receivers straight. But Buffalo ends up trading down with the Philadelphia Eagles because the Eagles wanted to jump a couple corner-hungry teams in front of them for Colton Hood, and I was really happy with that for Philly. I know that it's a split decision on Philly fans for the price they paid to move up. However, I do think that, losing out on some mid-round picks in order to acquire a position that you are pretty desperately trying to fill with a talent that fits perfectly, it's worth it. All right. Like that 3rd-round pick, you have a good enough team to where it's not really going to affect your outcome too much unless you don't draft well outside of the said picks. But we ended up having I believe a trade down, or once again, so the Cowboys trade down technically twice. Once at their first pick, once at their second. The Patriots ended up saying, we're going to bet high on Kenyon Sadiq. There's a chance he falls out of the first round. I was listening to Todd McShay, and I highly recommend you guys to listen to Todd McShay show with Todd McShay as well as Steve Mensch. Amazing show. Honestly, they've gotten better and better as time goes on, and maybe it's just the production, but they just like seem so much more. It's easier to listen to them now than it has been ever before. Not saying it's ever been a bore, but I've always watched them, and it's just gotten better and better. So if maybe you guys watched it at first and were like, yeah, it's they're very smart and stuff, but maybe this isn't the type of show for me. I highly recommend you guys do that because it's a really good show. Really good show. But they talk, like Todd talks a lot about the inside information that he hears. Now, could there be some stuff that he's told that can, make people, it's kind of like a misdirection? Maybe. But at the same time, I also believe that he has some pretty solid sources that we never get to understand, including some ears inside the Oregon organization that seems pretty accurate because Dante Moore, the whole entire reason that I'm having him return is because Todd said it's pretty much a done deal. But on top of that, Kenyon Sadiq, there's some concerns over his work ethic ever since he became tight end one. It's a weird thing. But again, I don't want to take too much time going over this. But regardless, have the Patriots move up and get super powered with Kenyon Sadiq, who is a freak athlete, freak tight end, good blocker. It's a weird combination to not have the success that he's kind of like not having right now. But we ended up having the Lions via a trade back. Oh, okay. So the Rams and Lions traded. Forgot about that as well. Rams ended up jumping a couple teams that I thought were going to be interested in Keith Abney. Very happy about that because the Cowboys were one of them, and I needed to get a boundary corner for the Rams pretty desperately. But Caleb Tiernan goes to the Lions. The Cowboys end up sniping Anthony Hill, which makes me feel a little bad about the Bills because I really wanted to just get Anthony Hill. All these mock drafts are done live. I do not give preferential treatment to teams. I want to do the best for them in every single situation, which means I try to screw over every single team with teams out in their division, teams in their conference, and teams that need players that other teams need. Because I think that's very important to think very selfishly at each spot. But Chris Brazzell, basically, he's somebody who people believe is a first-round wide receiver. I don't, but at the same time, someone asked, why Brazzell over Boston? And they said it was kind of dumb. And it's like, you got to understand that wide receivers have a different role. Each one has a different skill set. Similar to how every one of your friends, you're not going to have the identical conversation with them. Some of them are just very good at talking about the ladies. Some of them are very good about talking about restaurants. But if you already have a friend who's great at talking about restaurants, maybe don't put all your energy into somebody whose primary asset would be like, hey, this guy kind of just knows the spots. And I feel like Denzel Boston would be a little bit of an overlap with what Keon Coleman provides to this team. So that's why I ended up doing that with Chris Brazzell, add something new. And then via that trade down with the Niners, with the Colts, with the Niners selected Caden Proctor and are now at number 33. So people will ask, why did David Bailey fall? He has 2 off-field incidents. So this year, ASU ended up assaulting and battering a cameraman. Then secondly, last year, NC State ended up curb stomping a dude. There's big issues with that. But I do think here at the top of the second, teams are going to be a little bit more open to it. Now, some people believe Bailey should be an outside linebacker. It's definitely something, maybe if the Saints want to not go Arvell Reese early, it's an option for them. Of course, New Orleans not really the best spot for someone you don't fully trust in terms of, the decision-making internally. But I do think the Niners need to go after somebody who can be an efficient pass rusher. Like, I think once Michael comes back, he's already proven the floor as a run defender. Nick Bosa doing a fantastic job when healthy. I can't stand the fact that y'all ain't healthy, but that's a conversation for another day. I think David Bailey would be an excellent option to provide, because first off, Huff's been doing a good job. I'll say this, Huff's been doing a really good job for the way he was on the Eagles. And that makes sense. Robert Saleh makes edge rushing easy for edge rushers. But imagine if you get somebody on the talent level of David Bailey. And again, I'm trying to push him higher because personally, I don't fuck with guys who end up having like legit multiple instances off the field. That's just a thing for me. I don't like that. But you also have to evaluate when I hear Todd McShay basically talking about David Bailey as the best pass rusher and not bringing up these off-field concerns. He's not dumb. He most likely, teams know about it. So maybe it'll knock him down a little bit, but it doesn't look like it's a primary decision-making factor. So Proctor and Bailey, the selections there for the Niners at 32 and 33. And pick number 34, we have the Saints, took Arvell Reese in the first. And you guys might be wondering, like, a linebacker that high, he is a hybrid edge. And I ended up saying I'm making this decision primarily off of the hope that Arvell continues to have a heavier workload on the line of scrimmage. Because for Staley's defense, it's a 3-4. He's going to work really well as an off-ball or as an outside linebacker who can be on the line of scrimmage. And his linebacker skill set actually works really well with that. So I ended up selecting him over Bain for that reason. You guys have done an amazing job continuously trying to coach me through everything, and that's why I love talking to you guys. I always say comment, be a dick, don't be a dick about it. If I make a mistake, let me know. I only want to make it once. But at number 34 for the New Orleans Saints, I would have loved to have gone after like Emmanuel Pregnon, Vega, because I do think you had Tortelli Simpkins partially starting this year. Pretty sure you had another season-ending injury to McCoy, and it's just like, oh. But looking at the interior offensive linemen here, I wouldn't go after the pure guards. You can start looking at the offensive tackles. And Caleb Lamu has too much value at this point. I love just solidifying the offensive lines and just calling it quits. Caleb Lamu is a fantastic offensive lineman. He should probably be going in the first round, but some teams will be worried about the arm length. For me, I have him more as a guard. So when you do have some other guards that are going a little bit above him, it's hard to justify it. So we're going to go after Caleb Lamu there, tackle/guard out of Utah, but for this team's purposes, a guard. At number 35, New York Giants. Caleb Lamu would have been a good fit here, in my opinion. He would have been a really good fit. If Marcus Bowe was not taking tackle reps, which a lot of you guys are talking about, hey, the core strength's not really there for the interior. I get it. So Jennings Dunker makes sense. Jordan Tyson was the first selection. I know you guys wanted to trade back, and honestly, this isn't a bad spot to do that. You do have some really top tier talent available, like Trevor Gooseby. Like for teams that are looking for a right tackle, it actually makes a lot of sense. And especially given the thin tackle class, I'm thinking that the Raiders would be a good option here. For a short range move up, the Giants could probably they could probably look at maybe some future capital. We'll see about that. The Raiders, their first round selection went Caleb Downs, just best player available. Pete as well is pretty damn old school. We'll get to see based on injuries whether I think Charles Grant should get his opportunity to play. But Rodgers, we'll see how the youth starts to look on the offensive line. But there is zero doubt in my mind that you need to at least invest in something in the offensive line, and it's pretty damn important. I think the Dolphins also should be trying to make a move up for Gooseby, left tackle and right tackle versatility. Very important. I have morning voice, if you can't tell. I told you, I said I was going to record it last night, and I was like, I'd rather just wake up and actually have like energy rather than go until like 1:30 in the morning recording. And then, of course, you have to edit, upload. It's a lot more fun to be able to talk with you guys while I am not literally falling asleep standing up. But we're actually going to make this move with the Raiders. I think it's imperative. You have your best player available on defense. In my opinion, you need to get as much draft capital as possible. So I'm going to focus more on quantity than quality of picks for the Raiders. So I'm going to look at 119 as part of this move up and go and move back to 142. That's a 21 spot move back, 23, excuse me. And then you only move up 3 spots. I think it's fair for both sides. If I'm the Giants, I would like to have a much higher pick in that range. If I'm the Raiders, I just don't want to get too crazy. So we'll go with that. And again, if you don't like the trade differentials, I can promise you it's not going to make that big of a difference in the mock draft. But we're going to be going after Trevor Gooseby, tackle out of Texas. And you might say, he's a left tackle, Alex. What the hell are you doing? Last year, he had experience and played multiple games at right tackle. I know I'm like the number one guy who is like, do not say tackles can just swing like that. But this is a team where I don't know if it's going to be much of a downgrade. So this guy actually started out, if I'm not mistaken, playing games at right tackle. He's taking a big step up as a left tackle this year. Worst case scenario, you can have DJ end up kind of like playing at the start of the year at right tackle. But, I mean, we'll see. Maybe get Illuminor back for a year. I know that there's not a guaranteed future with him on the Giants. If that's the case, then we'll see how I'd end up handling that pick. But I do think the Giants are a little bit their need for offensive line is a little overstated in my opinion. I think it's more injury consistent. But 36, Cleveland Browns, Fernando Mendoza, Mekhi Lemon, really solid slate. Trevor Gooseby would have been my next pick. Their offensive line is not good. And looking at the options available on the offensive line, I just don't see it. And again, if you look at my board, like I have Lyndon Cooper, and that's like the one differential there. But I just don't think that you should force a position just because you need it, because that just means you'll probably continue to need it. Doesn't solve the problem. So, sitting here at pick 36, Quincy Rhodes Jr. is a really fun option because you have in a year multiple contracts up on the edge core, and I love Isaiah McGuire. You guys know me. I'm a sucker for Isaiah McGuire, but Quincy Rhodes is young. There's a strong chance he returns to school. I think he's 21 years old, but this is somebody who fits exactly the archetype the Browns are looking for on the edge core, and this is someone you could develop for a year as he gets more and more polished. I think that could be a really fun option for this team. And it's kind of my dream selection for the Bengals at 41. So it's a way for us to be able to get somebody for the long haul for us while being able to kind of stick it to an in-division rival. So I think we're going to do that. I've never done Quincy Rhodes to the Browns, but again, you end up giving someone who has those physical tools at 6'6", 275, and A, it's a fit, but B, and more importantly, you give them a year to get polished up to where they need to be. At 67, what the hell? 37, we have the Denver Broncos, and this is intriguing spot. I keep forgetting how the hell did we get the Jets? Oh, we traded up with the Jets to get Denzel Boston. My bad, y'all. I didn't talk about that one. I think that's a great move, by the way. I would have probably taken one right here with the Saints. Probably the Browns. I would be open to doing it again, but there's definitely a lot of teams that I think need to go after wide receivers. So I'm really happy with that. But the Broncos, their first pick of the mock draft. Sorry, Broncos fans. I didn't give you guys credit for getting some good picks here. But via that deal, we ended up actually recomping our third round pick for pick number 44. And I'm very happy about that because interior offensive line is a pretty big deal for me for this team. Wattenberg up for a contract. I think one of your guards is as well. So I'm going to be honest, we're going to look at Jennings Dunker. There are certain players that I think are just Sean Payton kind of guys, and it's an intangible thing. It's not actual analysis. I'm just going to throw that out there. I think Jennings Dunker would make a lot of sense on this team as a center. So we're going to end up taking him there. He's a gritty blocker. Do not like him at all as a tackle, but skill set translates much better to center. And so we'll see how that ends up translating. Number 38, back with the New York Giants, first pick, Jordan Tyson. Here at number 38, Cordell Flott's up for a contract. There is some concern as to whether he's going to be back, but I would end up saying I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that you guys get that deal done. Jermod McCoy, if you guys just check out the description for the guys who are returning, because it starts getting a little bit too long to discuss, but Jermod McCoy is definitely one of them. I'm not ignoring Jermod McCoy at this point. Just got to put that out there. Christian Miller is a very, very interesting option here because interior defensive line talent is never a bad thing to target for this team. Like, I'm thinking about it. Quarterback, you have it solved. Running back, you're not going to be drafting it here at 38, especially with the class that this is. Tight end, no. Even though I think you can get an upgrade, I just don't see, because I love Raritan, but Raritan's somebody that I would draft probably in like the 50s range, which, yes, we're here at the 40s, but, Eli Raritan it's kind of disappointing top of the second pick for a team that probably wants a little bit more impactful players. And again, the offensive line, I just don't see the value necessarily. I need to put Connor Lew in the description. And it's so obvious. Hopefully you guys understood what I'm saying. To be fair, Caden Green is a baller as an interior offensive lineman. He would be really good as an interior offensive lineman. And with his left tackle experience, I think he'd be actually a killer backup for Andrew Thomas. So he'd be a good starter at guard, I'm saying, with the upside of filling in at left tackle, because he's actually done a much better job than I expected. I might say 102 there, but I mean, this is a very, very consistent offensive lineman who's gone up against, he's been stress tested against top tier edges. I mean, think about it. Versus Bama, Yanze Pierre, LT Overton, Keldrick Falk, and then I'm forgetting the name of the other one who's having a lot of success at Auburn. Even Vanderbilt has some success with edge rushers, and then of course Cassius Howell and Rylan Kennedy for Texas A&M. So he's been stress tested and still has a pretty damn solid track record. I'm going to roll the dice here with Caden Green. And again, I love your offensive line coach. Please do everything you can to keep him. Like, he ended up making the Raiders offensive line somewhat competent. Look what happens like a couple years after he's gone. But Caden Green, I have a lot of faith in him on the interior, especially if you think Marcus Bowe will be the successor at right tackle. At number 39, we have the Miami Dolphins. First pick, Carnell Tate. A lot of people are saying, well, like, we need to go after more impactful positions. I will never blame you for wanting to go after more impactful positions. I think CJ Allen would be kind of fun, but linebackers have such a high miss rate, or at least have such a long developmental curve, that I don't like it early for a team that has so many issues. Unless you have a coach that's very defensively focused, like you could talk about the Raiders. Raiders and CJ Allen would be very, very fun, right? Like, I would love to see Pete Carroll with CJ Allen, but not going to happen. So we're looking at the Dolphins, and I do think a boundary corner is really important. Julian Neal. So you guys have had success with Juju Brents. Julian Neal, my comp for him is like he has shades of Juju Brents. This is a perfect fit. Now the question is, can we trade down, get some more value, and end up still selecting him? Like, I'm trying to see before I even make a move down, because you have to first off find a team that wants to move up. But more importantly, you don't want to lose out on the player that you want to go after. So are there any teams looking for a boundary corner? Remember, the Bengals took Cisse in the first round. I would say I'd be a little threatened by the Falcons. So I'm not going to make this move. We're going to go after Julian Neal, cornerback out of Arkansas. 6'2", 210. Good movement skills as well. Just a very, very solid day two corner, and that's hard to find. It's very hard to find very good corner talent that can produce right away, that has that instant fit. But like, again, with seeing Juju Brents having success on your team, like, he was cut from the Colts. Not saying that he maybe should have been, but recently I trust his game more than it has been before, which means I think you guys have the defensive system in place to make it easier for corners of a Juju Brents, Julian Neal style. Situations are very, very important. Much more important than what you guys think when you see below my face. Like, oh, like, do you think this is how the players will end up panning out? It's like, if they go to the right system, yeah. They ain't all going to go to the right system. So, number 40, Houston Texans traded up for Peter Woods. Very happy with that. Offensive line-wise, I do think that we might be missing out a little bit, but the interior of the offensive line needs a lot of work. And I'm actually going to go after Austin Siereveld here. He is a former guard, playing a really good job at left tackle, but his measurables are not going to be good in that realm. Isaiah World is very possible for us because he has very good measurables, is a tackle. If I'm not mistaken, in 2022, he ended up having reps at right tackle, or at least in high school, he has experience as a right tackle. It says he's 6'8". He's not 6'8". He's like 6'6" or 6'5". But Blake Miller's the dark horse candidate here to put at right tackle. Does have 35-inch arms. He's having a much better year than last year. Last year versus Texas, it was to the point where I said UDFA would not draft him. It was that bad. Glad to see that that's changed a little bit, but like, I think now he's like a day two player. We'll see, because he has good athleticism and he's been improving a bit. We'll end up having to reevaluate him because 2023, I actually had him as like a top 5 tackle. So I've seen the light. Last year it faded. Maybe it'll be back. But it's between Siereveld and World. I want to just solve the interior offensive line issue. Like, World would have the upside, but I do think it comes with some respective risks. So we're going to go after Austin Siereveld. Tackle out of Ohio State, but used as a guard in this system. Number 41, Cincinnati Bengals. And those of y'all who are wondering, why not Cassius Howell? He has sub 31-inch arms. And I'm hearing that a lot of teams actually like R. Mason Thomas more. So keep that in mind. Christian Miller's only falling because of the inconsistency, not because I'm not actually forcing him to fall. Just also teams have other things to fix, i.e. the Texans already went after interior defensive line. They're not going to do it twice in a row. But the Bengals don't move off their spot either. I think this could be an interesting spot because they went Mansour Delane in the first. The Cisse ended up going to the Commanders, I believe. Commanders went Cisse. But Mansour Delane, it's the same thing. Same color, different shade. But interior offensive line still could go after it. Like, I do think this team will always be in a perpetual cycle of needing offensive line. Edge rusher, also a position to look at. With Mateo Uiagalelei here, I definitely think like Zion Young makes a lot of sense too. I think we'll go after Zion Young. He's someone I'm willing to take in the first round, but I'm willing to flex here to the second. Again, Quincy Rhodes has the higher ceiling, I believe, but Zion Young has a complete package. He does fit. Like, I think he's a good enough athlete to fit the RAS measurables for the Bengals. I think his arm length's long enough. Like, he does feel like a player that will just skirt over the thresholds, and this team will definitely need an edge if Trey does not stay. 42, Atlanta Falcons, first pick of the draft. Wide receiver, always love looking at that. I've been hearing a lot of positive things about Deion Burks, it makes me so happy. I've been such a big supporter of Burks, and just like the health did not check out. The drops didn't either for a hot minute, but I mean, I've been very, very supportive of Deion Burks. Now, I do think that at 74, we're probably going to have some pretty good options. I do think people believe that Antonio Williams will end up returning to school. We'll feel that out as the draft goes on, just because there's a lot of receivers here. I'm perfectly fine doing that. But at the same time, if Cade comes out, I just don't really know if we could support that. A nose tackle would be crucial. So actually, Amari Washington would be fun because I think we'll delay wide receiver. We're going to go after Amari Washington, defensive interior out of Oregon. Put him as a true nose. He's 330 pounds. He's great with a bull rush too, so he's going to be a pocket buster. Very excited to see how Amari Washington would do. Just look up the highlights of Amari. It's crazy. Just the consistency, not necessarily there. At 43 for the Arizona Cardinals. God, Christian Miller's still here. I'm debating trading back because we traded up before, but CJ Allen's here. We need deep threats too. So I'm actually going to utilize this opportunity with Cassius Howell and Christian Miller on the board. And you guys see what I think of Christian Miller. I really like him. It's just not many teams based on like what's available are going to be like honing in on defensive interior. I'm looking at the Ravens, trying to make maybe a move up with them. Are there any other teams that could be looking for defensive interior? Honestly, I wouldn't mind the Panthers getting a little aggressive here. Like, defensive interior wise, you're not fully set. We could just totally recomp the defensive interior. But also with Arizona, that would also threaten with CJ Allen. CJ Allen probably who I'd trade up for over Christian Miller. So I'm not going to trade with them. The Bills, I do see them possibly being able to trade up, but they would also be trading up for CJ Allen. Now, is there a deep threat in this range? Deion Burks works. So I could end up saying, screw the linebacker position. We're going to go after that and end up going after a tier 2 tier 2 linebacker. Hello. With someone like Jacob Rodriguez. That wouldn't be a bad idea if we end up missing out on the deep threat here. And if we want to wait till the 3rd round or like the 4th round for linebacker, which is perfectly reasonable. Again, it's a pretty low hit rate. There are a lot of very good linebackers in this class that I would end up trusting. Is Newsome the redshirt sophomore? No. There's another linebacker from Missouri that's very, very good who's a redshirt sophomore. Is not in this, unfortunately, but we'll see what happens. But I do think that there's a lot of options for the Cardinals to be able to handle. And for the Bills, they traded back and got themselves a wide receiver. I think it's a smart idea to at least kind of like see how they would end up handling a move up like this. So they have a lot of picks. Remember, they traded with the Eagles. So they ended up recomping their selections. And this is actually kind of perfect because I think pick 99 would solve it for me. And that gives the Cardinals an extra 3rd round pick. You move back 10 spots, you get 99. Like, to me, that feels like a pretty solid deal. And for the Bills, I honestly think that's perfectly fine. So we're going to force this trade on through. The Cardinals received that 3rd round pick. And the Bills have moved up again. Their 1st round pick, Chris Brazzell. Their 2nd round pick, CJ Allen, linebacker out of Georgia. Sometimes you just got to pull the trigger wherever you can. At number 44 for the Denver Broncos, Jennings Dunker was your first selection. It was very important for me to do that. Unfortunately, got sniped with CJ Allen above them, but I don't think that's the end all be all. There's certainly other aspects I would love to target, one of them being a wide receiver. And with you guys wanting to go after, and I think a deal was on the table for Jalen Waddle, there's certainly the desire there to go after a dynamic weapon. And I'm going to go after Jeremy Bernard here. Great after the catch, smooth route runner, consistent growth year over year. You don't need someone to be the yak or the contested catch threat. You want someone who can end up creating after the catch as well. We're going to go after Jeremy Bernard here, wide receiver out of Alabama. At number 45, Baltimore Ravens. This is quick and easy. First pick, TJ Parker. Second pick, Christian Miller. Fix the D-line. Don't overcomplicate it. Love Christian Miller. At number 46, we have the Minnesota Vikings. First pick, Avion Terrell. Second pick, I actually am intrigued to see what options I could kick to center here. Again, Connor Lew not coming out in this. But, right tackle Blake Miller is not a bad choice right now. There is a question as to the future of right tackle. That might be the move I have to make. I mean, that's not a bad idea. And honestly, I feel like I would almost take it with the next pick for the Cowboys. That's an intriguing curveball because I do worry about that future there. And Blake might need one more year to develop. So, and I think he'll come out because he doesn't have any more years of eligibility. So we're going to do it. We're going to go Blake Miller here. Right tackle out of Clemson. We're going to go back-to-back Clemson players, of course, in the worst year that they're having. But there's a couple of bright spots, Avion Terrell being one of them. Blake Miller being another 35-inch arms. Again, he's just somebody who's picking up a lot of buzz right now. I blend my opinion with realism to give you guys my twist on a mock draft because I do think it's a waste of time if you just hear someone's opinion on what should happen. So hopefully you guys do enjoy that style. But number 47 for the Cowboys, first two picks, Keldrick Falk, Anthony Hill Jr. Very happy with that. I think we're going to continue going all defense. It's not very Cowboys-esque, but when you end up having some good defensive backs here, like Davison Igbinosun and Chris Johnson, it's pretty clear to me what the direction should be. And with the fact that you guys drafted Kalen Carson a couple of years ago, Kalen Carson's skill set was actually pretty damn close to Chris Johnson's, in my opinion. And the fact that it's higher zone IQ, maybe not the best athlete on planet Earth, it shows that the organization is willing to value the IQ side of the position. Not saying Kalen is the end-all, be-all, but it's the decision, or it's the reasoning for why I would go Chris Johnson over Davison Igbinosun, who I have a lot of faith in myself. So we're going to go Chris Johnson, cornerback out of San Diego State. He's been really, really solid. He's had opportunities to move to other schools, but he said he loved the development he was getting at San Diego State, and he's been absolutely locked down this year. At 48 for the Carolina Panthers, first pick, Clev Lubin. Second pick, I would look at safety here. Dylan Thieneman is someone who I love. You just need to use him as a free roaming safety. That's it. Like he has just some particular acceleration issues, but if he's coming downhill, watch out. That's why he was so good in 2023 is because he was used very much as a single high. And I think he's going to be a baller. So I'm going to give you guys that gift. It's just safeties, unless you're a freak, don't usually go until this range. Number 49, Kansas City Chiefs. Jeremiah Love, first selection. And here at number 49, you need to get some pass rush. So who can end up fitting the bill? Mateo Uyogale is a bit more of he's first off. Got to throw this out there. He's Spags build, right? He's above 270, he's above 265. He's 272. Need to click things correctly. He's super young. Strong chance he could come back to school with this good edge class. And then Dante Moore returning. There's a chance Mateo goes back to school. But he is more of a pass rusher than a run defender, and you need to get that pass rushing production. So we're going to go after Mateo Uyogale. At 50 for the Tennessee Titans, first pick, Ruben Baines. Second pick, Chris Bell. All via trade. So you guys have been very, very active, which, to be fair, Borgonzi kind of likes to utilize picks and do all that shit. But I'm going to go for a boundary corner one. I'm very excited to go after a player who I was just debating on. A lot of people are not on board with Igbinosun yet, but I think they're going to continue getting there. His biggest issue was penalties before, and I mean, he's fantastic. I ended up regrading him again, and he sits there at number 33 on my board. he's getting better. He's not solved with the penalties, but he's physical. It matches the physical prototype or a physical archetype that you guys have drafted at corner. And you guys desperately need someone to be a dog. And that's what Davis Nyck is going to be. 51, Jacksonville Jaguars, first pick of the mock. Defensive interior is possible. I do know. I think you guys are sending some feelers out there for some defensive interior players. I love Skylar Gill-Howard. I would end up probably trying to get you guys to draft him in round number 3, so stay tuned for that. But defensive back-wise, I mean, you could try to target maybe Malik Muhammad in this situation. I think that would be a waste. This is one of my least favorite spots. So honestly, I would try to trade back and maybe flip for future draft capital. The question is who's worth moving up for. With AJ Harris here, I could just try to take the swing for this team and just get a quality corner. I know you ended up, of course, trading with Tyson Campbell for Newsome, but let's just be real. This team is not fully complete. And yes, you could always talk about, hey, what about the quarterback situation? That's just going to throw everything into shambles. I mean, I would end up saying third round is where you can start getting a little ballsy, saying, hey, we're Trevor bringing in some competition. Second round, you're kind of saying we need to start you, and you're not high tier enough to be a first. We're going to go AJ Harris there, cornerback out of Penn State for the Jaguars. He hasn't been necessarily great this year, but again, this is a blend of my opinion and what everybody else believes. And a lot of people still love AJ Harris. I'm not there, but it is what it is. Steelers, first round, Casey Concepcion, returner, wide receiver, stud at Texas A&M. Very excited for that. Will Howard is going to be the quarterback most likely. Here we could draft one again. Moore, Sellers, Leavitt returning, Mateer returning. Maeva is definitely the one who I would consider. Mensah, I ended up making a decision after to end up just having him return because I think if he's not going to get first round buzz, he's just going to go back to school, get a lot of money, and continue the train. So I think that with wide receiver solved, you could go the wide receiver route. Corner, I would only be open if Davis Nyck were here because I think he fits what the Steelers normally go for in their corners in terms of the physicality. I don't think anybody matches it up here. And again, Jermod McCoy considered returning in this. But wide receiver wise, we solved that. Tight end wise, we definitely don't need that. Running back wise, we're not going to reinvest into that, especially in this class. Some people were talking about tackle. Honestly, interior offensive line is not a bad position to target. I do believe that Sumalu's up for a contract this year off the top of my head. And so we could definitely get someone like Isaiah World to compete there and then possibly be a future at left tackle if Broderick Jones doesn't solidify as the long-term option. Brian Parker could be the guy who we actually end up playing at guard. Took a huge step up this year. And really good movement skills. I would say that if you look at the interior offensive lineman that we have, it's a little bit more of the wrestling archetype. So you could talk about who we ended up selecting way earlier in Jennings Dunker if he's available. Makes sense. But I do think Isaiah World would not be a bad choice for us here. He can end up playing guard for the short term. Again, he does have experience on both sides of the offensive line, but he's going to be someone who's a physical freak for his size. I guess I keep thinking he's 6'8", and he's not. It says he's 6'8", he's not. Official measurements have him much shorter, but I do think he can end up standing up at left tackle, but I do also have some concerns over the fact that maybe early on he should play some guard, which we have a role for that, and we have a role for both. So this is going to be great to build the foundation of our team going forward. And again, Will Howard is not someone you should shame. He's a damn good quarterback. At number 53 for the Arizona Cardinals, again, first pick, Spencer Fano via trade up. We ended up just trading back and getting pick number 99. And we could go after that tier 2 linebacker right now, or the tier 2 Mike, which is Jacob Rodriguez. It wouldn't be a bad choice, but I'm also just going to kind of hold off for a second on that. Looking at other places, I do think wide receiver with a deep threat is the right thing here. And I also just don't see very many really good deep threats that'll be available at 99. So I think we need to force our hand here. And with a lot of teams, and again, Todd McShay ended up throwing the term out second round for Deion Burks, which if you watch his route running, this is one of the few guys who, funnily enough, you ended up drafting Will Johnson. One of the few guys I gave Will Johnson fits when healthy in 2023, I believe. He ended up giving Will Johnson fits when he was at Purdue. It was such a fun chess matchup. Please go and watch it. I think Deion Burks, talent-wise, could be a first-round quality. He has the burner speed. He's in like the 4.3, 4.2 range. It fits. It definitely fits. I mean, he also looks good in red, so it just all checks out. Number 54, Chicago Bears. First pick, Caden at McDonald. Second pick, we could talk about running back. Again, I'm just not a fan of it. Jadarian Price is probably the one who I'd end up throwing into this category. Damon Claiborne, love him, but I do need to drop him for like medicals. He hasn't been fully healthy this year. Dennis Allen, like 6'5", 265. And so I'm looking at Dennis Sutton and Malachi Lawrence here. Malachi's my dog. He's number 5 on my board. I do think he'll probably end up being, voice crack. He'll end up probably being around like 10 or 15 on my board. Watch that Baylor game, by the way. It is phenomenal. But this is somebody who is listed 6'4", 250, but measured in the summer at 263 with 35-inch arms. He's going to go a lot higher than people think. And he's a much smoother athlete, much better than expected. Like someone asked, like, well, why do you think people don't have these guys as high on their board? So for people who haven't watched him, I think it's just because they haven't watched him. It's not a big name. It's a smaller school. I get it. But for the people who have them ranked lower, and like 165 is understandable. It's such a good edge class. But I know people who have them ranked in their top 20. So it's not like I'm alone on this island. But I do think it's kind of a blend of not watching them and just kind of going with consensus. So I'm not exactly sure what the whole story is there. I will say his run defense has gotten worse since last year, which is why I have the star there for him to drop a little bit. But this guy is awesome. I mean, Malachi fits the Dennis Allen build. And again, he was at 250. He got up to 263 in the spring. And again, 35-inch arms, like 20% pass rush win rate. Not a true pass rush win rate. That's just standard pass rush win rate. He's an absolute baller, man. I have a lot of love for Malachi Lawrence. We've connected outside as well. I'm still bugging him to get him on the show, but he seems like somebody who's not going to be super responsive during the regular season anyways. At number 55 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, this is a quick and easy one. Very similar to what I was talking about with R. Mason Thomas. We're about to take R. Mason Thomas, fun fact. But Deion Burks, where I'm like listening to Todd McShay, and he's talking about, hey, this guy could go much higher than people expect. R. Mason Thomas was the name who's a possible first. And I've taken R. Mason to the Buccaneers in the first. First player who was drafted or who was signed in free agency, Hassan Reddick, a pass rusher who was 240 pounds. First player signed. It's pretty obvious. So we're going to go after R. Mason Thomas here after getting Sonny Styles in the first. And I just love that. I mean, it's such a good such a good pickup there for the Buccaneers. But, I'm very happy about that. Regardless, at number 56, Detroit Lions. We traded back and got Caleb Tiernan. Again, if you don't like Caleb Tiernan, I'm not going to hate on you for it. I love Caleb Tiernan myself. I ended up saying, like, you could have ended up going after like another player like Caden Proctor if you wanted to, and would have went Tiernan at a different spot. But we're here. And defensive interior, good value. You go after Caleb Banks here, not bad. But I think edge has always been the position I just, as like a gut instinct, like to go to. Center, I 100% agree, should be a focal point as well. But, Cassius Howell just has that, tear through your face mentality that I think you guys are going to love. The arm length is a bit concerning, but to be fair, your number one edge rusher did not have great arm length coming out. So even though, again, people will say that, like, oh, look at the players who are having good years with shorter arms. This isn't just shorter arms to Cassius Howell. People who have sub 33-inch arms are considered having short arms. That's a normal threshold. This is an exception on top of an exception. This is 30.5-inch arms. But he's very productive. I think he'll end up being a very, very solid player in the right system, which I trust Dan Campbell to put him in. 57, Green Bay Packers. First pick of the mock, baby. Corner is probably going to be the focal point for me. Again, I love D'Angelo Ponce to this team. I mean, it feels right based on like how you've handled this offseason and this season in general. Granted, it would be nice to have a true boundary corner, but Velcro Ponce is just he's so damn good. I love D'Angelo Ponce. honestly probably going to be the pick because I don't really feel like the value's lining up anywhere else. And I am starting to get worried about the corner class in general. So I'm going to go after Velcro Pons. He might be undersized, but this is somebody who has been able to perform in harsh climates versus much bigger receivers. So I'm not worried about the size the way that maybe the statistics say I should. At 58 for the Vegas Chargers. I ended up thinking about Vega here. Los Angeles Chargers. We have Vega as the first pick. Second pick here. I do think offensive line was great for us to solve early because now we can kind of focus on other positions. Now, I do think corner, it's not out of the realm, but again, it's just thank God, by the way, for Cisse. Like, first off, Todd McShay said he's coming out. So that's kind of crazy because apparently his brother joined the team on South Carolina and they wanted to play together for a while. I guess like kind of like strike when the iron's hot. So I don't blame him for that. But honestly, with the Chargers, I could double up on interior offensive linemen and just solve their offensive line for good. Because I have Lyndon Cooper here, who he's my number 22 player on my board. There's a reason why I say the number, so you guys can end up just like looking and seeing the name just to like verify. But I think he'd actually be a good addition here. Trev ended up responding and saying that he's going to be adding a lot of guys to the sim. So I'm very excited for that because I sent him my whole wish list and Lyndon Cooper was one of them. I'm going to let Connor Lew be the placeholder because I'm tired. I don't want people talking to me about it, but Connor Lew, the placeholder for my center, Lyndon Cooper, my center one of the class. He's been able to handle really talented defensive interiors, even dating back last year to Clemson. He ended up facing off against Peter Woods one-on-one and ended up doing better than anybody else I saw. He's a name that a lot of people, when they watch him, they're like, this guy's at least early day 3. Whenever you hear like the low end of like people who you respect saying early day 3, and you hear the high end being, this guy's extremely underrated, I could have him as high as an early second. I feel pretty confident that this is, again, another sleeper. And offensive linemen are very hard to pin down because there's so many of them that you can watch. There's 5 on every team, and there's not like huge splash plays that ends up giving you like the statistical, like, oh, wow. This player's randomly is getting like 25 yards per reception. Like, there's not a lot of key indicators to be able to, differentiate as easy as some other positions. But I digress. Number 59, Los Angeles Rams. CeCe Magoa, Keith Abney, the selections. And again, we don't have a third-round pick via some moving up and down. Honestly, those are the 2 positions I wanted. Like, those are the positions that I was looking for this team. So I'm very happy that we solved them. Linebacker, again, I just don't think this team values it enough. I just don't. I don't think they value it enough at all. So just to make sense of that, I would say wide receivers the next spot I'd go. And trying to think of, technically you can go after someone like Elijah Surratt to be able to play what Devontae Adams should play. There's a video of Devontae trying to do a release package, and then he ends up like pulling his back a little bit. And it's like the Unk territory has officially gotten here. But I'm looking at Omar Cooper Jr., wide receiver out of Indiana. Now, my biggest issue with Omar is on some reps, I just don't think he puts a ton of effort in, but he is really good after the catch. And he's just a really solid player in general. Like, this is just a gadget weapon that you could use in the short range. And in my opinion, take a little bit of the stress off of Puka having to be a focal point. I would end up saying maybe you could look at Zachariah Branch as well. Like, Branch has been really good. And the Rams had their eyes on him as a true freshman in 2023. So keep your eyes open for that as well. This provides returning ability. And, to be fair, with Tutu Atwell leaving, there's a lot of love in the community for Zachariah Branch and not a ton of true deep threats. Again, Nyck Harbor considered returning in this. So we're going to go Zachariah Branch actually there for the Rams because of, again, the LA connection as well as the fact that it's pretty much a one-to-one fit with a role that you are losing this year, unless Tutu comes back. Number 60, New England Patriots, Kenyon Sadiq, the first round selection. Here at number 60, looking at the options, I think you guys are in such a good spot. Deni Dennis Sutton is just going to be a high floor player for you. Like, personally, you could try to look at a left guard. I do like the idea of going after a left guard, just FYI. Like Austin Barber, Brian Parker would be, even though I think he's playing, is he playing the right side? Yeah, he is. I'm like, he's played left tackle. But this is a guard in the NFL. He's been going off this year. Like, people are talking about him as a top 50 player. Carter Smith's another one, man. Carter Smith's been doing a fantastic job, and I always have thought of him as a guard. I thought of him as a day 2 guard coming into this year as well, like a late day 2. That actually, Carter Smith fits this team very well, extremely well. With Kenyon Sadiq in the first, I'd probably try to trade back here, but I actually like Brian Parker to this team as well as Carter Smith. So it just doesn't make sense for me to take him here. With Joshua Josephs being available at the next pick, that's probably what I would do for the Philadelphia Eagles. Are there teams that maybe would be looking for an edge rusher and move up? I do think that the Seahawks are one of them. And again, let's look at the edge class to see, if we would need to make that move. Like Derek Moore would end up being fine for me as the Seahawks, to where I don't really need to move up for Josephs. I got a yawn stuck in the back of my throat. I would say we already did it for the Titans, the Saints. I don't think edge depth is necessarily required for the Texans, and we've already traded up once, even though Caserio loves his trades. The Browns have already taken theirs. It is starting to get a little bit too distant to make a deal for at least a player of this caliber. So I would end up saying we could end up sticking and picking. Offensive line, I do want to do for the Patriots, but I do think maybe that's something you could try to snipe down the board, because edge rusher like Kayvon Chason, I don't know if he's going to stay. He could. If he does, then it kind of makes this pick obsolete. But like, you're looking at what the Patriots have drafted recently, and it is like that 250 range. So I'm going to look probably in that realm, because like Joshua Joseph's in the 240s. It's going to be more of a DPR. Derek Moore, he's in the 260 range, but he's a good pass rusher. And I do think that's worth like throwing the ball out for. And I actually really like Derek Moore. Derek Moore is a good player. Like, he's just the definition of a good player. LT Overton you could talk about, but I just don't like, I want him in a 3-4 system where he can kick inside. So honestly, I'm thinking maybe the Saints would be a good pick for him to be like a quasi 3-4 defensive interior, like 3-4 D tackle, some people like to call it. So actually, yeah, I like that. Dennis Sutton's also a very good player. I would not mind it if you go either. You know what? Denai's a little bit more popular, so we'll go after Denai, but Derek Moore would have been a good one as well. The Patriots end up getting out of the first 2 rounds with Sadiq and Dennis Sutton. 61 for the Philadelphia Eagles, Colton Hood, the first selection. Again, tight end is possible. Raritan would be a choice here for me. I would end up talking about potentially a future tackle, but I just don't like the choices. Like Emil Wagner, if he comes out, is amazing at like 85, just because even though it's a little bit of an overdraft, he is somebody that is that right tackle, crazy athleticism. It makes a lot of sense. We solved the corner position. Let's solve the edge for probably the longer haul. We'll go after Joshua Josephs, edge rusher out of Tennessee. Fits the 3-4 system that, again, base package versus nickel, you're going to be in different fronts. But, Joshua Josephs will end up being a really solid asset as a pass rusher, and he does have that run stuffing ability as well. I'm a little bit lower on Josephs maybe than the consensus. That's probably why I haven't drafted him earlier, but that's just me. Number 62, New York Jets, Ty Simpson, Denzel Boston. Good movement up and down the board. People are mad that I did not send a first-round pick from next year, but at the same time, they're like, oh, well, that first pick of theirs should be used for a quarterback. They should, dude, you realize that if teams feel confident in the options that they have, they're going to take the confident option. Like, it's best player available. Like, if they think Ty Simpson's going to be their future, they're not going to just give up their future first that they would give up for saying. Like, what if that future first ends up being, like, God forbid, injuries occur, or, just some bad luck strikes and they lose all these very, very close games? What if that turns out to be Jeremiah Smith? Like, come on now. But at number 62, again, we've already drafted our quarterback and wide receiver of the future. Offense is like pretty much fully set. You guys are pretty confident in your corner core. I do think the safety core could use some assistance. And we're going to go Zaki Wheatley, defensive back out of Penn State. Just an absolute baller. He's gotten better every year. I think the tackling has gotten a bit worse, but still pretty damn solid. He's somebody who I would like to be able to line up more as a deep safety, even though he is super flexible. He's someone who I love seeing come downhill into the box. 63, Seattle Seahawks. Emmanuel Pregnon, the first selection. Here at number 63, I want an edge rusher. I do. I need a hero. I will not ever win any awards for my singing. But Derek Moore is the guy who I really love, especially because he's at 260 frame. He's a good athlete. And, you do have the ability. Mike McDonald will utilize guys in the best ways possible. I just have a lot of confidence in him as a coach. So I'm just going to send a very good player to him, not really overthink it too much. I'd probably be open to Derek Moore the next pick. I didn't realize Derek Moore was having the season he is. So it didn't pop up to me as to why maybe I should kind of consider him. But teams are going to love seeing the sack production jump. Like, that's super crucial. Like, percentage, pass rush win percentage is super key for me. But it is true. You got to convert it. Just because you make the quarterback move doesn't mean you actually have ended up taking over the play. At 64 for the Colts, first pick, I'm going to roll the dice on LT Overton. He's kind of been like a quasi D tackle, but especially for Lou's system, he likes bigger edges. This is going to be perfect for the team to just have a really solid, I loved LT Overton coming into the year, but he has kind of just taken a weird role that I'm not a huge fan of at the moment. Titans at number 65, Chris Bell, Ruben Bain, Davis Igbenogson, and honestly, it kind of hits everything I'm really worried about on the head. We'll see about the Sac State guard as to whether he can hold up. But I think that you guys are pretty fine in that realm. Running back, I don't think it's out of the realm to upgrade there. I know some people will disagree. That's okay. Linebacker, I don't think it's foolproof. Defensive interior, I do think is. You could go for another corner here. Chandler Rivers would not be a bad choice, especially after shipping Roger McCreary away. I actually really like Chandler Rivers for that aspect. He's a very high IQ corner that is just going to be very solid in the nickel. I really want him to play a bit more there. And again, with Roger McCreary's departure, it makes a lot of sense for me to go Igbenogson and Rivers, kind of complementing skill sets as well, complementary. Number 66, New Orleans Saints. LT Overton would have been my pick if he were there, but he is not. Their first two picks, Arvell Reese and Caleb Lamu. So we got our edge, we got our guard, and now you could try to get some extra receiving talent. CJ Daniels being here is very solid. Omar Cooper Jr. after the catch, not a bad idea. The problem with CJ is his athletic limitations. Omar can burn. I don't think it's a consistent speed. That's my biggest issue with him. Jacoby Lane would be a fun one. How old is Jacoby? I think he's a true junior. He's probably returning to school. I highly doubt he comes out. But Ian Strong's a very good wide receiver in terms of being able to threaten downfield as well as just be a reliable contested catch threat. He's been that way the whole time he's been at Rutgers as well. I want to give him some love. Yeah, you guys definitely need to continue upgrading your receiving core. So we're going to go after Ian Strong, a wide receiver out of Rutgers. 67, Houston Texans, Peter Woods, Austin Sierreveld to play guard. Now here at this spot, we're going to go after running back. And you can go after Singleton, but it's good to see Singleton finally bounce back. Thank God. But he's been bad this year. He's going UDFA. It's DeMont Claiborne, Jadarian Price, Jonah Coleman that are available at this spot. My biggest issue with Jonah Coleman is right here with this elusiveness. He does not break tackles the rate that he should, in my opinion. I don't know why. Yeah, so right here, missed tackles for is 29. 29 on 132 attempts. It's not bad, but again, you want to see that higher, especially after a hot start to the year. But it is very complimentary to what he marks, and so we're going to go after Jonah Coleman there. I love the fit, so that's why I've continued going after it. Browns, Mendoza, Lemon, and Quincy Rhodes. We need to look at some offensive line talent now. And Chaplin will be returning in this as well. He's had a bad year. He's a true junior. It doesn't make sense for him to come out. I think he's a redshirt junior. I swear he was. But I'm going to look at maybe some other options here. You could look at Carter Smith, and honestly, you can kick him into guard if he doesn't work at tackle. He's taken a big step up this year. He was like a PFF darling last year, but this year he has been significantly better. And you go from quarterback to quarterback, one who's immobile a little bit with Rourke, one who's much more mobile in Mendoza. I love seeing a tackle that can pretty much survive both of those. And again, cold weather climate, we're going to give Carter Smith the love that he deserves. At 69 for the Buffalo Bills. Nice. We have already taken Chris Brazzell and C.J. Allen. So wide receiver, linebacker selected. You guys are saying, why haven't you gone after a wide receiver? Because I'm not going to force one, guys. Oh, I'm tripping fucking balls. I was thinking about that for another team. But I mean, you could end up going after another receiver. I'm fucking tripping balls. But already went after receiver. Already went after linebacker. Now I would end up being open to another safety with like a big hitter like Halsey. Halsey also is a ball hawk, and I've been wrong about Max Hairston. Granted, you can see the ceiling there. It's great to see that energy. Obviously, love his personality and all that, but this actually, Halsey's been someone who's been gotten the best of sometimes, but he is somebody who is a red zone threat, and I want to see that. I want to see that a little bit more. So we're going to go after AJ Halsey here, defensive back out of LSU. At number 70, Las Vegas Raiders, Caleb Downs, Trevor Gooseby. Get very happy with how that ended up panning out for you guys. Linebacker wise, you do have Rodriguez here, who I think would be a very good get. It's a true Mike that has been really good in all phases of the game. I don't think he translates to the NFL at the rate that, the grades say he should, but he's still a very, very solid linebacker that I would end up showing up a lot of love for. So I'm going to go after it. Jacob Rodriguez, linebacker out of Texas Tech. Again, joining a pretty solid crew there. It's not a ground-breaking crew. And again, you guys could say, like, we need to get quarterback, get Geno Smith out of here. I'll probably trade up at the end of the one because I don't like drafting a lot for the Jaguars. But I think it's the right thing. You just need to go after best player available. Don't try to get fancy by getting a ton. Like, sacrificing quality for quantity rarely ends up being a benefit. So if you see the value there, don't ignore it. Dolphins, Julian Neal, Carnell Tate, wide receiver and corner, respectively. I think that's a good spot. Like, I'm very happy with that. We need to focus on the offensive line. And I'm looking at Austin Barber here, who can play guard, who can play tackle. Brian Parker, very, very similar in that situation. The interior offensive line guys like Parker Brailsford, who I love, you can consider them here as well. Trying to see if there's anybody who needs at least some consideration. I would end up saying the last graded player on here, which is Alex Harkey. Oh, they have one lower. Harkey is actually much better as a guard now, which is nuts to me because he did not show any of that beforehand, and he ended up developing guard skills this year while regressing as a tackle. That usually doesn't happen. But I would end up saying, honestly, trying to trade back here would be a horrible decision either. Defensive back, to be fair. Getting a rangy safety there as well with Minka, not a bad idea. Getting good range at the safety spot. Manuel McNeil-Warren is very, very, very... Oh, he's a 3-down. I'm going to go Manuel McNeil-Warren here. A lot of people are putting him in the second as well. I have not gotten my hands on Toledo tape, but everything I've seen has been fantastic, and his personality shines through interviews. This is going to be someone who I want to bet on. Number 72, Washington Commanders, first pick, not Ricardo Hallman, but number 8 player on my board, Brandon Cisse, who a lot of people, including Todd McShay, are talking about as arguably the top corner in the class. Number 72, though, we are already in a good spot. We have 2 picks right here that one of them we acquired from Arizona. And we need edge. Could have used Jacob Rodriguez as a linebacker. Not going to have that, unfortunately. But, I personally feel confident maybe with Akeem Mesidor at 75. Oh, did we draft edge yet for the Bengals? I think we did. Yeah, we did. Where the hell is the Bengals at? Zion Young. That's a good pick for the Bengals, too. I'm very happy with that one. I approve. I'm not going to do an Akeem Mesidor move for the Falcons. I actually have the guy already in mind that I want. Maybe, we'll see about that. But yeah, I feel comfortable going after edge there at 75, over here at 72. So let's look at maybe some other positions we can go after. I think wide receivers are a really good time. It's a good time to target wide receiver here. And I'm going to go after Omar Cooper Jr. His after the catch ability will be a longer term option than Deebo Samuel. And so we're going to end up going after that. And I don't think he needs to be slot specific. That's another thing I like about him. I'd be willing to put him on the boundary for reps too. So he's not going to overwhelm Jalen Lane's space. But I think it's a good move nonetheless. 73 for the Cincinnati Bengals. Mansour Delane, Zion Young. Very happy with that outcome. We are going to be looking at offensive line here. And I'm going to go Austin Barber, tackle out of Florida, to play guard for us. I really like his transition to guard. I don't think he can handle himself as a tackle, and it's shown. So very happy with me in the preseason making a very hot move there, very hot prediction, but one that I'm going to stick to. 74, Atlanta Falcons. You got nose tackle Amari Washington at 73. 74, very happy I took Omar Cooper Jr. for the Commanders because I'm looking at wide receiver here. And I'm going to go after just a short range separator with CJ Daniels. Reliable catcher, good separator, not the best athlete, but very good route runner, just a reliable wide receiver 3. Number 75 for the Commanders, we have Cisse, not Ricardo Hallman, and Omar Cooper Jr. I was telegraphing this before, but I do think there's a lot of teams in here that I'd personally be willing to go after Akeem Mesidor for. He's going to be 25 years old, but he passed the eye test better than Ruben Bain did for me when I saw him at SMU. But on top of that, that's not like the number one factor for me because I don't have enough information or experience with that to, know how much I should value it. But most importantly, there are NFL circles who are saying they even like Akeem better as a pass rusher than Ruben Bain. And so I'm going to utilize that and have him go to the Commanders here at 75. 76 for the Steelers, Casey Concepcion, Isaiah World. This is where we can throw a dart at a QB. I feel perfectly happy with it. Again, Moore, Sellers, Leavitt, Mateer, as well as Mensah returning in this. I'm going to look right here at Maava, who also could return if he wanted to. But we're going to take Maava and have a competition with him and Will Howard. It's a third round. You can end up just taking a shot in the dark and seeing if it works. 77 Baltimore Ravens, TJ Parker, Christian Miller. Very happy with how that ended up panning out. You could end up even going after Caleb Banks here as well. Just completely refortify the defensive interior. Not going to do that. But, looking at where they can end up getting some help. Offensive line-wise, I still think they can end up getting help there. And I do know that we'll see, honestly, at the center position, how they're going to handle, because doing a franchise tag on Linderbaum, because I'm forgetting if they got the deal done. I'm pretty sure they haven't, because someone was talking to me about it the other day. It's expensive to do that. So I want to see them get that contract in place because your offensive line are all grouped together with the CBA for the franchise tag. So it's possible. Honestly, actually, he's been doing red hot recently. Jaden Roberts, guys. Jaden Roberts, one pressure on the year. He's been phenomenal this year and has tackle length. He's finally kind of gotten back into his own. I don't know, maybe some injury bugs bugged him. We're going to go Jaden Roberts for the Baltimore Ravens. Someone who I did have faith in as a tackle, though, as well. Did not end up making that transition. But 78 Minnesota Vikings actually went curveball and went for the tackle for the future as well as corner. Center's a big issue for them as well. Honestly, I'm just going to continue down the line. Caleb Banks wouldn't be a bad player to add as like a big stuffing nose at this point. It's 78 overall. I think we can end up being fine with that. But I love Parker Brailsford. So, personally, I think especially with Kelly's concussion concerns, he's pretty much done with football. And Parker Brailsford, his anchor for 290 is fucking ludicrous. He is a wrestler to a T. He's a great player. 79 for the Dolphins, Julian Neal, Carnell Tate, Emmanuel McNeil, Warren. I honestly think all those guys are going to be huge splash players for them. You could toss a quarterback in here for development like Sorsby, but I don't really think you need to. Caleb Banks wouldn't be a bad player to just add to the mix and just say, we're going BPA. And honestly, fixing the defensive line even more is not a bad idea. We're going to go after Caleb Banks and roll the dice. At number 80, Carolina Panthers. Clev Lubin, Dylan Thieneman were the first two selections. Linebacker's got to be the move, right? And I know we're not going to get a Mike here, but this is a player who I have as a top 32 player, Kyle Lewis. He's 6'1", 220, but please go watch his tape. He is phenomenal. But again, size might push him here to the third round, and you guys get a superstar linebacker there out of Pitt. 81, Kansas City Chiefs, Jeremiah Love, Mateo Uiagalelei, the first two selections. I do think you're going to be open to a tight end here at number 81, and Eli Stowers is a fun gadget weapon. I don't think you guys would go that route. I would think Eli Raritan would be a little bit more up your alley, and I always take a quick peek to see if Raritan's here. Which he is not, unfortunately. But I will say a heavy boundary corner would make sense. Again, Jermod McCoy not considered in this. But Thaddeus Dixon, I don't know why people aren't talking a little more about Thaddeus. He's been a really solid corner this year for a team that struggled. Again, injuries have kind of hampered him there, but he was very, very solid there for UNC. Will Lee, underrated player, but not for pick number 81 at this point. So I actually don't like the picks that much. I was like, not a fan of that. Wide receiver is still a position I would want to target more of. Is there anybody who would end up bringing some deep threat ability? I love J. Michael Sturdivant. This is somebody who I'd end up going like Skylar Bell. Shout out to him. Very good receiver. Very good receiver. Caleb Douglas, fun one. Need to get those drops down because he's had a big drop problem. Antonio Williams would actually work so well in the Chiefs. I'll consider him in this mock draft because I just personally don't think he's going to stay and try to go through a recomp period. We're going to go Antonio Williams here and roll the dice on a player who has great deep threat ability, and you can end up just adding him in every phase of the game. 82 Niners, Caden Proctor, David Bailey. Two very big impact players. I'm very happy with how that turned out. Defensive back-wise, with Keon Saab here, I'm getting the rangy safety, man. Marcus Siegel, to me, is not the long-term answer there. And so we're going to end up getting a baller at free. He also plays every single position very well. Again, feel free to go and sub over to the Patreon to see my full board, all my evals, and all that. Number 83, Jaguars. AJ Harris, first selection. Eli Raridan's going to be this one. I ended up waiting a little bit longer, but, I can't wait too much longer. We're going to have to use a placeholder. Luke Hodge has always been my placeholder for him. My number 48 player, again. Other players who will be falling and stuff would end up making it higher. Pittsburgh Steelers. We've gone after Casey Concepcion, Isaiah World, Jaden Mayava. At this point, we need to go to the defense. And corner-wise, again, I'm not super happy with a lot of them, but Malik Muhammad's had his flashes this year. I do think that, he's also not been perfect. So there's a reason why he could fall to the third. Otherwise, I think he'd be a second-round pick. We're going to roll the dice on Malik Muhammad. 85, Philadelphia Eagles, Colton Hood, Joshua Josephs. Do I just say randomly Jermod McCoy announces that he's going out in the draft in the third round? Just get all of Tennessee players. But no, I'm pretty happy with being able to address edge and corner. Like that's where you kind of like need to be. A wide receiver 4, probably not the worst position to be in. You could talk about like a Bryce Lance at this point. Malachi Fields would just be if you don't feel confident in the future of A.J. Brown. But honestly, it's offensive line. I personally think you need to go after offensive line and develop it. I do not believe, as much as I would love to just have an easy answer here with Emil Wagner, I don't think he's coming out. Max Ianker is the guy who I'm thinking of because a lot of people love his game. And he has good arm length. It's over 34 inches for a right tackle. This is somebody who could end up being the long-term answer there at right tackle for Lane. So we're going to take a shot on it. Worst case scenario, it doesn't work out. I don't trust Cam Williams. I don't trust Hinton. I honestly trust the left tackle out of Rutgers from last year a little bit more, but is what it is. 86, Chicago Bears. Caden McDonald, Malachi Lawrence. Building through the trenches, baby. We're going to go running back here and tell me Jadarian Price is not a perfect fit. I love Damon Claiborne, but Jadarian Price does just feel a little bit more likely to go above him. Just such a stud. He's a redshirt junior, by the way. But Jadarian Price, he's explosive. He bounces it to the outside a little too much for my liking, but he is a refined runner overall and really, really fun to watch. 87 Buccaneers, Sonny Styles, R. Mason Thomas, the first selections. Here at this pick, I'd be open to tight end myself, and Max Clare makes a ton of sense. He will be perfect to replace Cade Otton, and it's good to see him finally get better, but this is the range he will probably go in. Jaguars, Luke Hodge, just kidding, Eli Raridan, and AJ Harris, the first selections. I'm going to look at offensive line and see if you can end up maybe sniping a left tackle here. Like, there's Prongos. I doubt he comes out. I'm pretty sure that Trev was saying there's like a 95% chance he doesn't, which is why I haven't considered him. But not a good tackle class. So we're not going to care too much about that. I'm looking also, you could try to get another running back into the mix like Damon Claiborne just for money's sake and for the long haul. Wide receiver, we'll see if you guys end up even paying Myers, but this wouldn't be a bad idea to go after more of a possession receiver like Elijah Surratt. It's kind of a build that you don't have on your roster. And he's a gritty player. Let's try it. We'll go Elijah Surratt at number 89, wide receiver out of Indiana. Even though it says a contested catch rate, 33%, through his whole entire career, he's been fantastic. 89, Green Bay Packers. D'Angelo Velcro Pons, the first selection. Here at 89, honestly, I love just to get more defensive interior talent based on what's available. I'm going to go for Big Citrus, Big Dom Orange. We're just going best player available and not even thinking about the exact role he needs to play. A little bit of a down year here for the Big Citrus, but worth bringing on nonetheless. 90 for the Chargers. We end up having not Connor Liu, but Lyndon Cooper, my 22nd overall player, and Vega. So offensive line heavy to start out the draft, and I think that's very crucial. I also think a nose tackle is crucial as well, and I want to get a big run stuffer here with Darrell Jackson. He's a little bit on the older side, but there's not many guys in the country who can plug up the middle the way that Darrell Jackson can. There's a big value in that in the NFL. 91, Detroit Lions. First pick, Caleb Tiernan. Second pick, Cassius Howell. Third pick here, I would like to look at the centers available. Jake Slaughter, definitely possible. He's had a very solid year. I'm not the biggest guy on him, but it does make sense. Logan Jones just kind of makes a little bit more sense. I do worry about his anchor. He is 302 pounds, but I mean, I do think that the talent kind of screams through it all. Like Jake Slaughter is also in the 300 range. So we can't talk like you can't criticize Logan Jones without criticizing the other option. So I'm actually going to go Logan Jones. He's been really, really reliable this year, and center's a big position to target. 92 for the Cowboys. Keldrick Falk, Anthony Hill, Chris Johnson. 3 defensive stars for this team. I'm looking at Romello Height at this point. I'm saying, is it possible for Jerry to go all defense? And it is. Wide receiver, like, I honestly think the options on day 3 are perfectly fine. Look at Eric McAllister on day 3. I love him. I'm actually going to go up and double up on, we're just going to go all defense. We're going to go after more of a DPR style Romello Height, edge rusher out of Texas Tech. Like, we have a little bit of a higher floor edge rusher for Keldrick Falk, and we're going to pair him up with like kind of like lightning and thunder Romello Height. 93, Philadelphia Eagles, Colton Hood, Joshua Joseph, Max Ihianker. Pretty happy with how that ended up turning out. But, we kind of solved the biggest issues. Tight end wise, I do think we still need to look at one. Joe Royer's a possibility. I prefer him as a slot personally. Justin Jolie, definitely somebody I very much like. Not the best run blocker on earth, but he does have the foundation for it. And honestly, it's Miles Kitselman. If he didn't have the drop rate, would be my dream target for this team. He has a 20% drop rate, and it's just drives me crazy. We're going to go Justin Jolie. He is that 260 range, worth the risk, and he is a burner as well. Like, he's a fun tight end to watch, so go and check him out. 94, Denver Broncos. First pick, Jennings Dunker. Second pick, Jeremy Bernard. Honestly, players that I definitely think fit the Denver Broncos MO, so I'm very happy about that. We need to look a little bit on the defensive side. We're going to go to the linebacker room. Deontay Lawson, if he gets his weight down, is going to be perfect, but I want to get a little bit exciting here. We're going to go Harold Perkins Jr., linebacker out of LSU. Just going to take the swing and let we're just going to let Vance Joseph have his fun there with a very flexible piece, because I would have sent him to the Seahawks at the next spot. But I've kind of sniped players I wanted for the Seahawks back-to-back times in front of them. And I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I love y'all. But we've already gotten Pregnon and Moore, and I think that's a really good combination. Honestly, Deontay Lawson's worth it at this point. I might just roll the dice and go after Deontay Lawson. I mean, we missed out on one. We're going to go after another. If his weight just stays stabilized, I think it's worth the dart throw. And so we're going to take it there. 96, Colts, LT Overton with their first selection. Again, kind of just going BPA. And then at this point, their secondary looks great. Linebacker as well. It's possible, like Terayan York. He's kind of like the top guy that most people talk about. I'm not the biggest Terayan York guy, but, to each his or her own. Whit Weeks, not a bad choice. Honestly, not a bad option. Wide receivers underrated because Alec Pierce up for a contract, A.D. Mitchell gone. Jacoby Lane, I'm going to have him consider returning in this just because it just doesn't make sense. So I'm looking at Bryce Lane here as someone who could provide that juice downfield. And honestly, I think it's a really good fit to replace Alec Pierce if you guys don't bring him back. Even if you guys do, you can end up just saying this is to replace, you could end up replacing AD. But I will just end up saying this. Shout out to my guy, Anthony. He's a big fan of Bryce Lane. So I also want to give him some love there. 97, Minnesota Vikings. Their picks, Avion Terrell, Blake Miller, Parker Brailsford. Nothing that's going to blow your socks off, but all damn good players. So I'm very happy about that. We're going to go after defensive back here. And, I want to be able to get some good defensive back help. Bud Clark's an interesting one. This might be a group that you might want to wait till day 3 for. Shout out to Philip Dunham, by the way. 3 interceptions this past week. Where's he at? 3 interceptions, versus Houston. Good for him. Granted, some of them were not his. He didn't do the job that would have required the interception. It was more like a bad throw on the QB, but still want to give him a shout out because 3 interceptions in the game is fantastic. But Kamari Ramsey is a little bit more of a nickel base. Rod Moore, he hasn't even played this year, has he? Yeah, he's been banged up. I don't know why he's listed that high. I do know, again, similar to me, there's some players that need to be reevaluated and moved down. Like Bray Hubbard's a monster. I'd end up selecting Bray Hubbard for the Vikings, FYI, via trade back. That's why I'm telling you guys, hey, hinting, gonna trade back. I want to make a pick with the Raiders. I want to make a QB pick. And I'm a little bit worried about some other teams here, even the Cardinals looking at a QB themselves. For a 10-spot move back, I do think we could recomp the pick here. We're going to give up 142 and end up getting back, I think, 168. You move down, what is that, 24 spots for a move up of 9. I think that's fair for both sides. I'd be happy with the Vikings as well doing that. Maybe you could say, oh, you need to give up a little bit more. Whatever. Downs, Gooseby, Rodriguez. Very happy with that. We're going to go after Brendan Sorsby here, quarterback out of Cincinnati. Extremely good arm talent, but the mechanics make him very inconsistent. So that's why he's early day 3 for most people, but got to make sure to jump ahead of some other teams that might be either A, trading up, or B, taking one there. Steelers, Casey Concepcion, Isaiah World, Jaden Mayava, Malik Muhammad. I'm actually very happy with that grouping at this point. Is there anybody who is going to be best player available type? Nothing that blows my socks off. I do think Whit Weeks would be a really intriguing investment option, but if we did not get Jack Sawyer last year, Mikhail Kamara would probably be the player who I really love to us. But I am starting to think we could continue investing in the defensive interior because Cam's getting older. I love right now the trio of young guys that we have, but this is 3rd round, so this is going to be here for support. I really want Waya to take that final step and be the true nose he should be, but I do also need someone to be more of a run defending nose, and that's what Tim Keenan is. He's just kind of a big ass plug for the middle. Tim Keenan could be a good choice. Let's look down the list. Shout out to Brandon Cleveland. I'm a big fan of his game too. 6'4", 315. We connected on Twitter, so excited about that. Lee Hunter, though. Lee Hunter at this point, not a bad idea. He's 330. We could plug the middle with him, and he's good enough to be able. Yeah, let's do it. We're gonna pair him up with Wyatt Black at the nose, and then have our defensive interiors work outside of that. Number 99, Arizona Cardinals, Spencer Fano, Deion Burks. I can't go QB at this point. We're going to go Whit Weeks, linebacker to LSU. I mean, I love that. I mean, Whit Weeks here, call it a day. I mean, you could select another one that you like, but even though Whit's a little bit on the lighter side, he's still a leader. Again, when healthy, he's a savage. He's worth a 2nd round pick, in my opinion. We're going to go Whit Weeks there. And at pick 100, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars. Are there any quarterbacks worth selecting at this point? To be fair, no. So, Taylon Green. Taylon Green is here. And honestly, the Jaguars could be in the mood for Taylon Green. That'd be kind of crazy. They do. Garrett Nussmeier's here too. This could be the spot where they're just saying, hey, we're going to bring in some competition. You know what? Buy low. We're going to go Garrett Nussmeier, quarterback out of LSU, to the Jacksonville Jaguars at 100. So glad I ended up making that move up with the Raiders, because then we would have missed out. But that's going to be the video. Thank you guys so much for watching, showing the love you always do. Stay tuned tomorrow for the 2027 mock draft. Love you. See you later. Peace.